Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Welcome to Mesa County Compass. Today we are interviewing Cyndee Skalla, who is running for District 51 School Board. Welcome, Cyndee.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Oh, in a nutshell, I am a retired school teacher who is still teaching. I retired in May of 2022. I've taught for about 35 years here in School District 51. Most of my career was spent between Loma and Appleton. I've taught all the years in elementary, but I have subbed since then. My husband and I, we have a blended family. We've raised all 8 of our children here in Mesa County. They've all attended School District 51 schools. We're the proud grandparents of 16 ugly grandchildren, 3 of whom, kidding of course, 3 of whom are currently enrolled in School District 51 schools. Spent my entire life dedicated to education and success of students, and I know firsthand the importance of parents and the role that they play in the classroom, and I know for optimal student achievement just how imperative it is to have the parents play a significant role in their kids' education. I'm super concerned about safety. I think that we have a good start. Our single point entries in our schools is a great start. But the building that I finished my career in is an older building. And, if the bad guy or bad gal coming in goes in the front office, we're okay because they can keep them out. But, with just a little bit of thought and a chair, they're in the classroom in just a few seconds. So I think we have a little bit of room that we need to go to make sure our schools are safe as well. But I'm dedicated to education, and that's pretty much my background and a little bit about me.
You said one of the reasons that you are running is to address teacher burnout. What do you think is causing teacher burnout?
Well, I can speak for myself, and I can also speak for others. I think that due to the lack of our low test scores, our student achievement scores are down. They're down in every grade level, in every content level across the district. And I think our administrators and our curriculum directors, I think that they have the right ideas in mind. Like they want to do all they can to try and get these scores up. And so I liken it to be having spaghetti thrown at the wall. And the teachers were the last ones. We keep getting more of this and more of this and more meetings to attend and more time out of your classroom and more mandates and more meetings here and more this and more that, instead of allowing teachers to just teach. The time to teach, the time to plan, they take more and more of our time is taken away, whether it be doing duties or on this committee or in that district meeting. We just don't have what we need, and that's time, the time to plan and the time to teach. And I understand the spaghetti throwing, but it's time to get in there to see what is working, what's not working, clear those teachers' plates, and give them the time to plan and the time to teach. And I think that they can be a lot more successful.
Sure. I find it very interesting. My mother was a teacher years ago, and what she did was not go to committee meetings. She didn't go to any special things like that. She focused entirely on her classroom, her lesson plans, her grading system, all those kind of things. She would not have had time for all this other. So do you really think that that's what causes some of the contribution of children not learning what they need to learn, why the test scores are so low?
I think that is one of the factors, actually, yes. I do think that too much is being asked of teachers. I still have a lot of relationships within the schools, and just last week, a teacher was literally crying because being pulled out of her classroom for so many committees, so many entire days taken out of the classroom where they're not able to teach, where they have to write lesson plans. And anyone who thinks that lesson plans for subs are easy, you are wrong. A good set of plans takes about 2 hours to complete, just to be gone. And you know that while you're gone, those students are not receiving that core instruction. Teachers are truly being I think that as teachers, we are expected to scaffold instruction. In other words, we're supposed to scaffold according to needs. Like some kids will need more one-on-one, more support. Other students will need less because they're good to go. One of the problems with our district is they treat everyone like they're a first-year teacher. Whether you've had 30 years, 20 years, or 2 years, you're all thrown in a box and they all think you need this, which is actually a giant waste of time. Let us get back to our classrooms. Let us teach.
A question for you on that, and probably this has nothing to do with anything, but I'm curious. What kind of meetings do you go to? I mean, what can they possibly bring to you as a teacher?
That's a great question. So we can start with whatever newest curriculum is being thrown our way. So for example, this year, the elementary teachers have had a reading, writing, and phonics and social studies to some degree, all of 3 of those core curriculums thrown at them in 1 year. And so I guess they don't think that we know how to teach or we know how to read. So teachers are expected to go to special classes, special this, special that, to learn how to teach to the new curriculum. There are also teacher committees where there's teacher leadership, where they single out different teachers at every grade level and they have to attend teacher leadership all day outside of the classroom. Trainings where the feedback that I would have for myself, complete and total waste of time. As a school district, it's important to have what are called learning communities, LCs, where teachers talk about student work and what's working in their classroom, what's not working in their classroom. And while those are important, they seem to think that we need even more classes to learn how to have learning communities. So you see, it's like an never changing, always like, we're just going to act like this is brand new and no one knows about it. And we're going to do that to every single person. And every single grade level has to have a representative out of their classroom once a month for this. And everyone has to have a representative out of their classroom once a month for this new curriculum and that. And it just piles up to where, like last week when I substituted, there were probably, in all seriousness, at least 10 teachers out of the building that day, plus the reading interventionist, plus the math interventionist. So those students not only did not receive, as great as I think I might be as a substitute, I am no substitute for that classroom teacher. So there were, 10 classrooms without their teacher in there, plus all of the kids who desperately need a reading intervention and or a math intervention. They got nothing that day as well. And this is not just a one-day thing. This happens over and over and over.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Two things. Number one, to me, that's an insult on your intelligence. Okay. Number 2 is, if those kids lose a day, they just as well have lost a week. Am I correct in that?
You are right. We have such precious time, and the kids who need interventions, it's critical that they receive them on an ongoing, steady basis, because you teach them something one day and they're barely hanging on to it the next day. It's that repetition. It's over and over and over, and that practice that those students actually gain. And a lot of people might think that the way to increase student achievement, well, two things I'd like to say about that. But one, sometimes people think that if you take the higher kids in the classroom, the ones who've got it, and make them just a little bit better, that's how you bring up your scores. And that's actually exactly opposite. The way you bring up your scores is actually from the lowest students in your classroom. But I'll tell you what makes the biggest difference in student achievement is that teacher. That teacher, research has shown that a highly qualified teacher does make the difference between success and not success, where a highly qualified teacher can grow a student up to 2 years, and one that cannot even show 1 year of growth for those students.
So do you think then that administrators have gotten so far away from the classroom that they don't see what is happening, and they're just fulfilling the state says we need to have this mandate and that mandate, so they aren't aware of what that does to the teachers? Or they think, well, we can't, because I know when I thought you could pay me more money, but I have nothing more to give. Because it's always, well, if we pay the teachers more, and I think, no, if you support the teachers, like you said, with fewer meetings, but also in a classroom that I know that because I taught at high school, and if not everybody is listening and there's no discipline and there's no consequence, then they also don't achieve, but they prevent other people from achieving as well. And so how much do you think, I know high school is different than elementary, but how much do you think is involved with children just not being on task and there not being any way to address that? And I also know that, at least at high school, if you have somebody trying to do that, to address everybody's needs, and you can't form a separate lesson plan for each one, but your kids that get it oftentimes are going, I'm bored, and the kids that don't get it might not get it because you can't go slow enough. So how much do you think is that sort of a problem as well? And how can you address that? How can you solve some of the things that you were just talking about with the meetings on the school board?
Well, some of the questions that I heard you ask was how much are administrators just following their rules, and has it been too long since they were in the classroom? And overall, I will tell you that as a teacher, we would often say we wish that administrators all had to cycle back into the classroom every 5 years, just so they remember and they recall how overwhelmed we are. I was really fortunate enough. I really felt supported by my administrator. However, I think they answer to someone above them as well. And they're mandated or whatever, and they're told what their message to us is, and I really think that they try, and they try that, but I can speak to, I also know firsthand that the teachers do push back, and we have to push back as educators and say, that's too much. We cannot. And it does seem over time that changes are made. Even this year, they're like, okay, so we'll back off on that because they've had so much pushback. But then you ask about behaviors in the classroom, and I wasn't quite sure what your question was on that, but I think that the art of teaching in public school, because you do have so many kids at so many different levels, is having a classroom where you have challenging but yet authentic tasks for those early finishers. You have the support for those kids who are right on target, and you have in your head and how you're going to work with the kids who are struggling. And that's just the way a well-run classroom has to operate, so that people's time is not wasted.
Okay, I have a question then. Jessica Hearns, we interviewed her the other day, and she made it a point to say that she thought that we needed more administration. Where do you go with that?
No. No, we do not need more administration. You know, in our school, like, the administration that is actually there, they are critical. You know, I worked for many years in a school with, 400 plus kids, and we just had one administrator, and he's asked to do everything, to be all things to everyone. And we were lucky enough a few years ago to get an assistant principal, and some might think that that's excess, but it's truly not, because that assistant principal was able and is able to take on all the behaviors. And so that other the principal is allowed to run the school and the relationships with staff and all of that. And that assistant principal is able to come along and really help with those behaviors, take some of the load off the principal himself. For they don't just have to evaluate teachers, they have to evaluate all paras. The tasks that they and deal with parents, the tasks that they have are daunting. So those are faces that are in front of the students. It's the administration where those faces are not in front of the kids every day. Those are the ones that concern me somewhat. Like, what is, what service are they providing for our schools? And I can't imagine why we would need more of them. I would say more support for the ones that we have in the buildings every day, working with our families every single day.
So the administrators need to be face-to-face with who they serve.
Yes.
And not just that extra layer up above.
Not that we don't need people taking care of our budget, and you know what I mean.
Yes,
yes.
You're
It's a
just
business.
questioning how many
Yes.
you need.
Yes.
and in what
We can
capacity.
become top heavy. I think we have been top heavy
we have.
for a long
We are.
time, and I think that this is just personal thoughts, but I think that some of those people are double dipping, making a lot more money than they should be making, and it should be going back into curriculum. It should be going back into the teachers. It should be going back into the principals, so you have something to work with.
Well, and I don't know if this is one of your questions, but I would like to address some of the money going back. I don't know if you're aware of how low our instructional assistants are paid in our schools. It is a shame. It's a notch above minimum wage.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, my biggest unsung hero, and I saw it when I was an educator, and I've seen it as a substitute as well. We have paras that are SSN, are
So you might have to define your
So a para,
acronyms.
So a para is an instructional assistant, and SSN are kids with the severe and significant needs. They're the most needy among us. They're the mentally challenged, or the kids who are being fed with the G-tube, the kids who have certain disabilities to where they need one-on-one or very small group support. And we have our instructional assistants, or paras as they're called. We have them working in these classrooms with the most needy and the most frail among us for just 10 cents above minimum wage. And they are being hit, kicked, spit on every single day. These paras, like, they are performing such a service out of love and dedication. And one bad day, they're working at Kohl's. It's not just the teachers but our paras and our instructional assistants, like, they deserve a living wage, and especially our SSN SPED paras, special education paras, the ones who are dedicating their life to these the weakest among us and the most frail among us. So, you know, there's a lot of room between that administrator that's, you know, in the school every single day working their tail off, and that administrator that's a long ways away making I don't know how many times the salary of those paras that our schools absolutely must have, and our students and our students benefit from them. And as a teacher, I can also tell you that there are many instructional assistants paras out there that are high quality, and I would put them up next to some of the very best teachers we have. Like, they are top notch, and I think it's a huge disservice. I think anyone who is in front of a kid, that's where our wages and our money needs to be. The further you are from a student, your salary should go down.
Very interesting.
So do you think it would help? I did this once when I was teaching. I had the school board come into my classroom, and it was mainly because it was so stinking hot in there. And I had 35 kids in the class, and they didn't all have chairs. And they said, "But you're fine." And then the school board came in and said, "You can't teach like this," even opening the windows and whatnot. But I thought that it was really beneficial to have the school board come in and see what are the issues that teachers are facing, and so what are the kids learning, and more, instead of just being in a meeting, actually being in the classroom too. Do you see a benefit to that?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. You know, when I retired, I became a substitute teacher. I just wasn't quite ready to let it go. And I had the opportunity to go into a lot of classrooms, and a lot of secondary classrooms, whereas, you know, my rose-colored glasses, you know, everything through this, anyway. And being an elementary teacher and just knowing, you know, the hardships and how, you know, how we work our tails off as elementary teachers. And I'm not saying that secondary teachers don't. They just have a whole different set of problems. And I'll tell you, when I started substituting at the secondary level, and I saw firsthand what an impact cell phones have in the classroom, and I mean, and I'm talking negative 100%, though I cannot tell you how many kids I saw playing games on their cell phone with their cell phone under their desk. How many kids I saw, the brighter kids, doing the work, taking a picture of it, and then sending a copy around to everyone so that they would know all the answers to the work. And I saw, bless their hearts, the boys, how they would wear beanies down over their ears so their teachers couldn't see their AirPods and the listening to the music or the video or the movies, so they were not tuned into the school, or growing their hair out down below their ears so no one would know. And I just wonder, you know, why those teachers didn't feel like they had backing or the power to put a stop to it. But it, you know, our news would say the learning loss is due to COVID, and I would push back on that from what I saw firsthand. Cell phones are ruining our kids' education. Also with Chromebooks, kids don't carry notebooks from class to class anymore. They carry their Chromebooks in secondary. And the powers that be will tell you there are no games on those Chromebooks. I can tell you firsthand there are, and how the kids speed through the lessons and then go on to the games on their Chromebooks. And so much wasted time. I think that we better learn how to better use cell phones in the classroom if they're going to stay. We better police our Chromebooks a lot better, because they are ruining our students' education. They truly are. It's a problem. And so I wanted to go to a board coffee, and this was before I thought of running, and I wanted to beg them to just walk into a classroom
Unannounced.
and just a paper and pencil. And I just wanted them to tally how many times they saw a cell phone out. And then I wanted them to go to the next classroom unannounced, sit down and tally how many times they saw a cell phone misused in that classroom. And I'll tell you what, to answer your question, yes, I think that school board members, not in gotcha ways, because
No.
I'd also like
to help you.
Yeah, highlight the amazing things that are going on in classrooms and the amazing teachers we have there, like looking for the positive, but there's some realities we need to talk about as well. And just, as a substitute, what I saw, and as a school board member, what I would like to do is, yes, I think it's important to show up, be there, not only talk with the students, but also what's going on, to get a look at things firsthand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that hit a couple of the things that were in the paper that you had addressed. You said that kids are distracted. That is a big reason why kids are distracted. So, and that seems to also address why the test scores might be going down. If you're distracted and you're not learning what's being presented, and or somebody's giving you all the answers and you're not learning, that's another problem. So, do you have any other thoughts about why school test scores are declining?
Well, I think that we've gone away from the main thing. I've worked in our school district for a long time, and way back in the day, we had a superintendent, and his motto was, keep the main thing the main thing. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough for many years of my career to work for an ex-Marine, and it was, why are we here? To learn. And how do we learn? We work hard. And I think that schools maybe have everyone expects them to be all things to all people, and that affective, and we've got to feel good about what we do. And I promise you one thing, we're going to feel a lot better about what we do when we're successful, rather than we consciously know, oh no, like I can't read that, or I don't understand that, or I don't know how to do that. I think it's time to go back to the basics, back to the core curriculum, back to the 3 R's, throw in some civics, of course. I think it's time that the kids learned more about, how our country is ran, some life skills thrown in there, how to budget it, how to balance a checkbook, or how to dress for an interview, or, there are so many things that we can do. I think that it's a community. I think that if our community came together, that we could have businesses say, hey, upon graduation from high school, we would like to see our students have this, this, and this. And then just trickle that down, but make that obvious to the students, like why? Like, if they don't know why they're expected to know this, or why they're expected to know that, they're not buying in. Like, there's no, what's the point of knowing this? And I think we've gotten away from like that purposeful learning and that purposeful thinking and that pride in doing a good job, while at the same time backing up and say, all right, we'll meet you where you're at. We'll take you forward from there, and just getting the students to have that self-confidence, and with, success breeds success, and to go forward. I think that our CMU Tech, oh, what a beautiful, wonderful thing that is. And bringing that down into our schools and hooking those kids at a middle school level to where they're setting goals and where they see where they want to go. Instead of, like, I've honestly, as a substitute, sat in with kids who were struggling learners, and I know how firsthand what that's like. One of my daughters has a learning disability as well, and just listening to these 14-year-old boys sit around and talk about how they can't wait till their 16th birthday so they can drop out. Like, they had no interest. They were unsuccessful. They felt like they were being forced there, but no one was in there, like, grabbing their interest, getting to know them, and like, well, what are you interested in? What pathway can we get you, going down? Like, we have, as a community, such an opportunity, not just within the walls of the school, but to really come together and embrace these kids and to give them a future that they can look forward to, instead of wanting to just check out of, get on their cell phones, and that's their life.
Okay, so with that being said, and all are very valid points as far as I'm concerned, how would you implement that when you get into school board, if you get there?
Right.
Well, first of all, I feel really strongly about building a coalition with our community. I really, I want to work with these businesses, like seriously. I want to know, like, what's a prepared graduate for you, and not to put them down at all. But I know if you were to like research it, they would say the one thing that we want prepared graduates better at is communication. Well, my question is that written? Is that oral? Is that during a presentation? Is that in able to do a sales pitch, debate? Like, specify.
Is that understanding what we're trying to communicate?
Exactly. So, like, don't just give me a big umbrella. Tell me exactly, like, how can we prepare your graduates? I would love to see, like, if you could provide these learnings in this technology, or this, a certificate for this, and if our schools could partner with these businesses to prepare these graduates to where these kids are like, whoa, like, I don't have to be drowning in college debt. I can go right from graduation to this employment, and I can be successful, and I can be that guy driving that truck down the road with those shiny wheels, like, you know what I mean? Like, show them how they can succeed. So I think that our community, I think CMU Tech and
Okay, so explain that, because I think a lot of people, when you say CMU Tech, what are they doing?
All right, so
what does that look like?
CMU Tech, that's their new name for it, is what used to be the Western Colorado Community College.
Right.
And they are offering they're offering courses, everything from artistry to being able to get your be a LPN, to child care, to food services, and there are several programs right now that are actually free. Like, you can attend and you can get your certification for free. I just don't think it's advertised well enough. I have a daughter who teaches in the construction management at CMU Tech, and she says right at the very beginning of school, all the sophomores in the valley come and do a tour and find out all the options, and you can do concurrent enrollment, you can do concurrent classes. But I almost wonder if, as a sophomore, it isn't too late. I think about, let's grab those kids. I'm not saying stop with the sophomores, but I'm saying, let's go back to 7th grade. Let's give these kids a purpose. So, and I also think we have a stellar program, the Career Center. Right. And the Career Center also offers, whether it be childcare or
horticulture.
And even welding opportunities. And like when I went to high school, we had auto mechanics, and anyone who can fix a car now is a genius. Like, I think we need to swing back that way. Not everyone is college bound. Not everyone is college material, and I think
get those children and they go into college and then they can't make it for whatever reason. It's just not their bailiwick, and drop out, and then they're going, what do I do? What do I do?
Or they have to take so many remedial classes
in
to
order
be able to get
do
in,
anything else.
and you're paying for those.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And there is a lot of time wasted with the remedial classes. My daughter, the one that teaches at CMU Tech, and it's not just school district 51 kids. She's like, some kids are coming to school ready for college. But, she'll come home and I'll say, what did you do today? And she'll like, I taught rounding. And in my mind, I'm like, you taught rounding? Like, I know that's taught, you know what I mean, like in elementary school. But yet you gave your whole day, their entire instructional period, to teach rounding. I know that many don't know where end marks go, punctuation, or that sentences start with capitals, and I think that not all the kids, don't get me wrong, but generally they're not prepared graduates. And I think going back to, core instruction, making sure that those subjects are solid without all these feel good, do this, do that. Don't get me wrong, the arts are important too. Like a kid can be captured through a music or a theater program. I just think that they need to be just as rigorous, and the expectations need to be there, just like the core classrooms as well.
So how do you, and this is an old story, and I don't know how we correct it, but how would you think about correcting the general public thinking that those schools are for losers? And it does happen. It is out there. If you don't go to college, you're a loser. Right. So, what would you do as a member of the school board to let people know that these kids, these jobs, these things are essential for us? Not everybody needs to be a PhD in order to make this world turn around. In fact, 99% of them don't need it.
Right. I would probably just ask them the last time that they needed their car engine fixed, how long it took them to get in. I mean, it's very obvious. There are a lot of technologies, a lot of things that have nothing to do with a college degree. Perhaps more trade schools opportunities need to be, but we do need to change the thinking. And
there is a stigma.
I know, but I'll push back on that. And when you have a successful child that is able to move out and support themselves, and be a productive member of society and feels good about themselves and is happy, I think as a parent, isn't that what we're all after?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
Yeah.
Then it comes to, how do you define success? And so one thing that I think would be wonderful about having you on the school board would be that you have all these different people that have different backgrounds that can fit together, that you would bring in that teaching element and say, hey, let's keep this real, because we're up here talking about all these things, these graphs and charts, but how does that look in the classroom, and how does that help us in our goal to raise kids that are happy and productive and good citizens, and that are able to be on their own, like you said, and not living in their parents' basement doing video games? And how do you change that thinking? So when you were talking about the feel-good things, I'm thinking more of the classes that, music, some people, that is what keeps them in school, is that they have a music program, or they have PE and they have athletics, and that keeps that kid engaged, because I will go to school so I can do this. But where I'm thinking of it is more instruction that is not, that is maybe value-oriented or push that direction, instead of, I'll teach my values, you teach how to read, write, do math, and social studies is really important to me, how you have accurate history and civics and economics and those sort of things, so that those people can function and contribute to a society. And I'm not necessarily going to worry as much about if they can be inclusive or diverse, or if they have equity. I think if I have equal opportunity, that's what I want to see, that everybody has the opportunity, nobody's denied, and everybody has what you said, like the paras that are there to help the teachers so that people can learn and you can reach everyone.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't have any more questions. Do you, Lisa?
No. I don't. You've done a great job,
Thank
I
you.
think.
You covered all the bases,
Okay.
more than what we had thought about.
Is there anything that you'd like to say?
I just, sometimes our valley is referred to as Happy Valley, and I think that a lot of the problems in our valley are everyone's, and that we can be happy. I don't necessarily think that we need to throw more money at our schools. I think that as a community, we can come together and work with partnerships with committees and to achieve what I think is our common goal and what's best for students, and to get the graduation rates up whether it be workforce readiness or whether it be college readiness or whether it just be third grade reading scores, committed families, committed kids, and to just really come together to build our district up to what it used to be and what I know it can be again.
What I'd like to say on that point is the fact that so many of the kids are getting away from public education now. They're going to homeschooling or they're going to other types of schooling. Do you think this kind of a mindset would pull them back?
I would like to hope so. I really do believe in public education. I wouldn't have given 35 years of my life to it. But I do feel that there is an unfulfilled need that our public schools are not filling, a void there, opportunities, choice, voice, distrust, mistrust, apprehension of from a lot of families. And I would like to get them back to the table. I would like to hear their voice. Like, what can we do? What should we do? And just be more community minded and to just really lend that ear to their concerns.
One thing I thought, since we said, nope, you don't have any more, I do. One of the things that Jessica Hearns, again, that brought up that I thought was a great idea is like in committees, that's where decisions get made at a lower level than really at the school board. They're presenting their ideas, what they've come up with. How can parents be more involved? Not parents, just parents, but the community, like what's in the curriculum. I don't know that I don't know if they're asked to be on the committee, if there's a website that you go to and say.
Those are great questions, and I can't speak to every single committee we have in our district because I haven't really looked at the umbrella of it. But I know as a school board member, I will honestly, with every committee that currently exists or that is created in the future, I will seek out parents to be on the committees at the onset, like when they are created. And we know that parents are also the business owners and leaders in our community. So it's almost like, a 2-for-1. You're getting someone in the business world, plus you're getting a parent. But I think that those seats need to be filled with parents, and they need to remain empty until they are filled with a parent, right at the outset, at the formation of the committees. And, you spoke to curriculum as well. One of the things, like when you're a teacher, they put out all the curriculums and you go and you can peruse it, you can pick it up, you can look at it, thumb through it, whatever. And we would do it on our own time, like after work, And I don't know why parents aren't invited to the same, why don't they have the same exact option to go in, touch, look at, and to be able to give feedback, and that their feedback be weighted. That not just lip service, but that their feedback have weight and have bearing, because parents are consumers. These students are the product, but these parents, they deserve, they are our consumers, and they deserve to have that say so, that
and the
voice.
Decision does not have to be just the experts, because the parents do know what they want for their child.
Well, the experts aren't always the experts.
Right.
Touche.
Right. Well, you've been watching Mesa County Compass, where we bring you the truth as we see it. You decide.